Hey there, Carrie Rhodes here. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's video, I'm gonna be playing. It's been a long time since I played, a long time. I'm gonna be playing with a gel press. Now, if you haven't used a gel press before to make prints for your card making, you're gonna wanna check this out. I'm gonna be making some unique, one-of-a-kind prints that I'm going to turn into cards in a part 2 video because I had so much fun playing I couldn't stop making these. I'm gonna be using a stencil and some homemade stencils that are really leftover paper from die cutting some shapes. Hearts in particular. So I'm gonna pull out some acrylic paints, the Brayer, the stencils, and the gel press. It's super easy and so much fun. I know you're gonna love it. So let's go ahead and get started. For today's video, I am using 2 gel presses that measure 8.5 by 11. They're found at the Spellbinder shop, and they fit a piece of 8.5 by 11 cardstock perfectly, which I love. Then I get 4 card fronts. And I'm going to be using some heavy body acrylic paint with a matte finish, 2 shades of pink and 2 shades of yellow, and also my Brayer. Now you can see all the things that I've shown you are very well loved. Even the stencil, this is the Artful wall stencil, has lots of love. I'm also going to be using these pieces of cardstock that I die cut some images from and thought they would be good as stencils on my gel press. So let's give it a try. Now the gel press has a tacky, sticky surface, and so it holds a stencil perfectly. So I'm just laying that stencil down onto my gel press with nothing, and it just lays there. It sticks to it really well because that gel press has nothing on it. But you will notice there is residual paint and ink and pan pastels on my gel press, and eventually some of that is going to come up in our prints. But I like that. I like the grungy look. I like the distressed look. It's a mixed media feel. I love it. So you can see here I'm brayering the paint on, and then I'm using the second gel press to clean my brayer off onto. And then I'm going to go ahead and pick up a print from the piece that has the stencil on it, the gel press that has the stencil on it, and it's a really cool print. I will definitely be using this. I love it. But we're going to just keep going with this and build up layers and see what we can get. So I'm transferring that stencil onto the second gel press with the paint side down, or the clean side down, and as I brayer over it, I'm kind of pressing that into the gel press, and I put my stencil into a pan of soapy water so that that paint will clean off a little easier. Now once the paint dries on both of these, I'm going to cover them with white paint, and this is going to reactivate or moisten that paint that's on there again, and I can pick up that print. Once the paint's dry, I can't get that paint up any other way. But these are some of my favorite prints. It's called Let It Ride, or at least that's how I learned it from a class that I took on gel press printing by Carolyn Dubé. And I'm going to repeat that same thing, putting down a light layer of heavy body white acrylic paint over the top of the already existing dried paint on my gel press. Put your paper down, and the key to this is a light layer of paint and letting that paint dry. So I'm going to leave the paper on top of these for about 5 minutes, and then I'm going to come back and peel them up, and you'll see the amazing print that I got with that little hint of the stencil in the background. Super cool. Now, if you're a regular card maker, you might be thinking, I don't know about these backgrounds, but just stick with me, hang in there, and you'll see the beauty of these in my part 2 video that will be coming out probably tomorrow. All right, so some more paint here. I'm going from dark to light on my pinks, and then from light to dark with my yellows this time. And I'll brayer those out in kind of a diagonal fashion here. Spreading that out. You do want to pick up your brayer as you roll across there, and I'm also bringing in a scrap piece of paper to clean the excess paint off of my brayer. So I have my second gel press and a piece of cardstock that I'm cleaning it off on, and I can use that brayer paper either as a print itself or to pick up a print for added interest. So now I'm bringing in that brayer cleanup paper and that heart piece of cardstock that I used to die cut hearts from and picking up a print. And I love how this turned out. So don't waste that paint that's on your brayer when you clean it off. All right, I'm transferring that heart piece of paper onto the second gel press and picking up a print on a clean piece of paper this time, and we'll see what we get there. It's more subtle, but it has a really cool look to it, and we can definitely use it. So this time for picking up my paint, I am using just the pastel colors. The Bubble Gum is the lighter pink, and Pineapple Smoothie is the light yellow. These are all colors from Fun Stamper's Journey, which is a product line that Spellbinders carries, and that means I can get ink and cardstock that match my color of paint, which is pretty awesome. So I'm bringing in a second piece of paper to clean off my brayer again, and I will use that paper on something else here shortly. And I'm going to let this one dry. So I'm going to set it aside and we'll come back to it in a bit. But for this one with the dry paint, I'm going to do the Let It Ride with a stencil. Okay, so I'm putting the stencil down on top of dry paint, adding my white paint, but now the stencil is not going to stick as much because there's dry paint there like it would to a bare gel press. So I'm trying to be really careful. I did get a little shifting, but it's okay. Gel press prints are not necessarily meant to be perfect. So I'm going to peel that off, and I will put that back in my pan of soapy water, and I'm going to pick up this print, but this is a Let It Ride technique. So again, I'm going to come back to this later. I do like to use my brayer to press the paper down sometimes. Now here's that one we set aside. When you let this dry on your gel press, sometimes it needs a little bit of muscle to pull it off. And you can see not only did I get the paint that was there, but I got quite a bit of the black paint that was left over on my gel press. And it looks a little, I don't know. We'll get back to it though. All right, so check out this. My paper separated. That meant that my paint was not quite dry in some areas. Dry in some areas, wet in others. And so it made my paper separate. So I just pressed it back down. That spot is ruined, but I don't have to sacrifice the entire print. We'll come back to it in a little bit when it's dry. Now I'm using some Limeade paint. I wanted to bring in that fern, paper stencil. We'll call it a paper stencil. And I'm going to pick up a print here that's just going to be the ferns right onto some white cardstock. But I'm going to use that and add some more to it in a little bit. So I'll peel this off and look at the amazing detail and print that we're going to get from this. Over the top of that, I'm using my favorite color of acrylic paint, or paper for that matter, Cool Pool, and brayering that all over. I felt like it was not quite enough paint, so I'm going to bring back in a little bit more of that paint. If you don't get enough paint, you're just going to get a partial print. Not all of it will pull up. So it's kind of a fine line between too much paint and not enough paint. I'm cleaning my brayer off there on that print I already took. And then I brought in some bubble wrap to add a little bit more interest to this print right here and just pressed it in really lightly. And then I'll go ahead and pick up that print, but we want to let it dry. So I'm going to set that aside. And now let's come back to this one that I ripped. I rotated around, so I'm peeling it up from an opposite corner this time. And you can see that one corner is not awesome, but the rest of it is. And I'm not going to rule out that part that has the torn paper. It could still be used for something. All right, so now for Let It Ride, I'm actually going to brayer on some pink paint right here, and I'm going to let that dry. And actually, I will have a photo of what this one looks like at the end, but I'm also going to use a plain piece of paper to clean off my brayer. I've got a little pink that I could use for something else later. So we'll come back to that, and now let's check out the fern paper and see what that looks like. Such a cool print. Love it. A tiny bit of the black showing through. I don't mind that at all. A little of the pink at the top. It's a cool print. Now, there's not much going on here, but I'm going to put down just white paint, and we're going to do the Let It Ride technique, and you're going to see how much is actually on this gel press. So I'm going to roll this out and make a very thin layer, and I'm cleaning my brayer off on a book paper. I tore this out of a book I got at the thrift store, so I'm bringing in that gel press or that brayer cleanup paper for this Let It Ride technique. But what I wanted to say is that you can use book pages and clean off your brayer and get a subtle book page that would make a great background for something. All right, so I've pulled this one off, and you can see there was quite a bit still on that gel press. Even though I'd got a lot of that black up, that black is persistent, and it's been on my gel press for a while. So I don't mind doing those clean it up type prints. All right, so here is a look at the prints we made today. I see a lot of fun potential in these prints, and I can't wait for the part 2 video where you're going to see me turn a lot of these into cards. All right, so we had that one print left that I have to show you that I set aside with the pink in the background. Here it is. So cool. And then my daughter really got into it watching me do prints, so this is a print that she did. All right, so then I like to just kind of envision what I'm going to do, and so I bring out a die that's about card front size, and I just lay it out, and you can see here I'm getting like a little snapshot of what my card fronts could look like. Picking out like my favorite areas. So you could die cut these, or you could cut them into quarters, which is usually what I do. Even some good ones there. All right, so that is it for today's video, but remember, there is a part 2 video coming out, and that will have 10 cards that I made with these prints and some Glimmer hot foil. So make sure you go and check that out, and after it publishes, I'll leave a link to it in the comment box below. All right, thanks so much for stopping by, and happy stamping. Bye.